Joydeep Dutta needs no introduction. He is a professor at the Indian Institute of Technology at Kanpur. He's been a rail fan all through his life. He spent his childhood and early days in New Jalpaiguri, about which he is going to talk today. He is also a diesel buff and has written a book on diesel locomotives. So we are looking forward to a very interesting talk by a very learned person about New Jalpaiguri and the environs around New Jalpaiguri. So Joydeep Dutta, it's all yours. Incidentally, he is the vice president of our society.
Thank you, sir. This is it's a great honor to introduce by you. So, New Jalpaiguri is one of the greatest stations of Indian Railways. We like it or we don't like it. That is the truth. It is the third international station of Indian. Before Apu puts on the slides, so New Jalpaiguri is in a very key point. There is a place called Chicken Neck, which is at the north and south Dinajpur district in West Bengal, and that area around New Jalpaiguri is a very slim zone where on one side there's Bangladesh and other side there is Nepal, and that crucial point lies Siliguri and the start of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railways. New Jalpaiguri was built to be a unique station which links the meter gauge. Which links the meter gauge and narrow gauge system of NFR with the newly formed broad gauge system of NFR. So let me start this discussion on.
Can you see the screen? Full screen?
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
I can see your screen.
Yeah.
So I have done this thing with collaboration with several members of two rail fans, non-official, I would say, but the rail fan groups in NFR. One is NF Railway, enthusiast, and another is the IRFCA of North Bengal. So some of them have helped me. Their names are at the end. So it's a joint way of me along with those young friends that I have. We are celebrating a very important station, right? If I am not even wrong, it is the most important station of North.
Disappeared.
Because some host had muted me. So now let us go to see what is so special about New Jalpaiguri. Why New Jalpaiguri is important? Not because it was built by a very famous railway engineer, B.C. Ganguli, but it had certain structural or design aspects which makes it a fantastic station. These design aspects of stations quite interest me. So New Jalpaiguri had a very interesting design, which I will gradually speak about. But first, to introduce people who are not from this region and hardly or never have visited New Jalpaiguri. Many of the IRFC members have visited because of the program, but let me just give you a schematic diagram to show you the railways around New Jalpaiguri. So can you just go to the next slide? So look at this diagram here. Railways around Siliguri is not to scale, and I had made a little mistake in drawing the Mahananda River. It should be coming straight rather than. So you see here is the main line from Aluwari Road, which is actually coming from Howrah Shialda or Katihar. The first entrance into Northeast India is actually through this magnificent station of New Jalpaiguri. From New Jalpaiguri, this area between New Jalpaiguri and Siliguri, this New Jalpaiguri to Siliguri, this radius of that town, the Siliguri town, is essentially 10 kilometers at maximum. So can you believe that in 10 kilometers zone, you have 3 different railway stations? You have New Jalpaiguri, you have Siliguri town, which is marked as SGUT, which is the oldest one, from where the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway originated, and the trains which came from Calcutta during the British times came in there. And then this is the Siliguri Junction, again designed by B.C. Ganguli in 1949 as a part of the Assam Rail Link project. So you see, so how complex this small area is. And the radius is 10 kilometers. So now you may say that, okay, it is so near Siliguri, why don't you call it New Siliguri? Why New Jalpaiguri? I'm sure people would like to call it New Siliguri, but because that part came under Jalpaiguri district, that southern part of Siliguri came under Jalpaiguri district, so it was named New Jalpaiguri. So but because Jalpaiguri actually is quite far from New Jalpaiguri at more than 40 kilometers. Now you see, this is from New Jalpaiguri, the broad gauge comes in, and from New Jalpaiguri, this broad gauge, this is the current scenario. This is a broad gauge and combined broad gauge, and on the side in the narrow gauge, that DHR line goes through Siliguri town, crosses the Mahananda river, and gets into Siliguri Junction. Okay, so Siliguri Junction is a very key station. You see here, there are 3 lines emanating from it. It's not a joke, because here this is narrow gauge line which moves first parallel to the line which goes towards Bagdogra, and then takes a sharp curve near what is called the Darjeeling Moor, and then goes straight towards Shukna. Shukna is somewhere here. And this place which I mentioned, Ponchanoi, many people would not know that there was a narrow gauge line connecting from Ponchanoi right up to Kishanganj. Until 1974, the C-class locomotives, steam locomotives of DHR plant went over this line. It is amazing. So I have seen some relics of C-class locomotive in the DHR maintenance yard at New Jalpaiguri, which is now has been shifted to Siliguri Junction. So this is a very complex thing. And then one line again comes from Aluwabari. From Aluwabari, the lines separate. The broad gauge, actually, the Aluwabari line was originally meter gauge. Now it has been converted to broad gauge. So that meter gauge line came from Aluwabari, Nakshalbari, Bagdogra into Siliguri Junction, while the broad gauge line from Aluwabari came via Rangapani into New Jalpaiguri. So this BG line again comes from Aluwabari into Siliguri, and then another BG goes towards Assam. This is the old Assam Rail Link project route, and this is the famous place called Shivok, where you have the famous Coronation Bridge, and there's the Tista River, and it's a beautiful place, a touristic place actually. See, the building of Siliguri Junction was also designed by B.C. Ganguli. B.C. Ganguli, being the general manager construction of NFR, had built the Saraighat Bridge. And it was interesting because the Brahmaputra is so big near Guwahati. If you stand in the strands of Brahmaputra, you'd see how big it is. And it was so big, it's very difficult to bridge from the opposite side. But they could find only a small place where they could bridge it. And that is why the train takes so much of a long turn to get into Guwahati. So you see from New Jalpaiguri, this line, this is not drawn to scale, it comes to a place called Raninagar Jalpaiguri. And from there, there's a line straight moving towards New Kuchbehar and towards Guwahati. And then there's a branch which gets into Jalpaiguri and Haldiwari. And this has been the attention of railway enthusiasts for quite some time recently because of the starting of the New Jalpaiguri, Dhaka New Jalpaiguri Mitali Express, the international train, which crosses from Haldiwari into Bangladesh. There's a place called Chilahati. And also, there was a lot of commotion among railway enthusiasts for railway authorities deciding to send our beloved Darjeeling Mail from New Jalpaiguri and terminate it at Haldiwari. So let's go to the next slide. So here is a panoramic view of New Jalpaiguri station before electrification. This LHB rake is most probably the Capital Express, while this is actually the rake of the Yuva Express from Delhi, which one day was sent as a New Jalpaiguri train to New Jalpaiguri as some express train, kind of a special train. So this is the broad gauge part of New Jalpaiguri. New Jalpaiguri station, this is a very interesting station in the sense, here you see these buildings, it is the offices and the waiting rooms and all these things are in the main platform, which is now the platform number 1 of New Jalpaiguri station. actually what happened was, is the ticket concourse etc. here? No, the ticket concourse is not here. There's a long bridge which connects you to the ticket concourse, which is right far off on the left end. Because this station had a very interesting division. The station building originally in the design divided the station into two parts. One was the broad gauge part, and the other part, which is now broad gauge and has a one narrow gauge line, was actually the meter gauge and the narrow gauge yards, narrow gauge area. So there was a clean separation by the station building. Actually, what we now see as platform number 1 in New Jalpaiguri was actually platform number 3 initially. So let's go to the next slide. So to talk about the railways around Siliguri, we should come to Siliguri town. This is a very old, dilapidated look of this station when I was a child. So on the right was the meter gauge line connecting New Jalpaiguri to Siliguri junction station. And you believe it or not, there was a speed restriction. I have seen it all along my childhood of 8 kilometers per hour, where a steam locomotive, largely an MAWD, so meter gauge American Watt design class locomotives, they used to haul these local trains from Siliguri, New Jalpaiguri to Siliguri junction. And on the left here was the route of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. And in fact, these were the original platforms from where the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway started, while these were the original platforms where trains from Calcutta, which is from that other side, came in. Siliguri junction is towards us. I mean, it's not inside the screen, it is towards us. This is a very dilapidated state. Now, this part has been completely taken off and it has been made into a broad gauge station, which is very, very, very sad actually. But this building actually exists. But this should have been an important heritage part of DHR and should be maintained in a pristine condition where actually markets can be started and a DHR small museum can be started. A lot of things can be done. I remember one of my first experiences of getting in a toy train was one of my mom's cousin used to work in the railway and live just in the quarter, just behind these shanties that you see are some railway quarters. So we went for a lunch at his place. And then me and my brother heard the hoot of the steam locomotives. Siliguri in those days were very quiet, and you can, from very far, you can hear the hoot of the B-class steamer. And we said, no, we are going back to our railway quarter home at New Jalpaiguri by this train. So we ran to the station and we got into the train. And once we got into the train started and we felt like going to the toilet. Actually, so I was looking at where to go. Then we realized there was no toilet in the coach and we were very surprised. How come the railways have built a coach without any toilets? Because we were so habituated to seeing toilets in railway trains. So that was the first part of my DHR journey, though later on I had taken full DHR journeys and including had walked with Terry Martin up the whole railway. So Apu, next slide. So let's go to, this is the old Darjeeling station, which this is the right part is a part of the station which still exists. Actually, this is a new building which was built after the old building was destroyed in an earthquake in 1948. So New Jalpaiguri station originally started in 1963, but I couldn't really figure out the exact date because by 1965, BC Ganguli was already in he was already in he was in Southern Railway as general manager, right? So then he obviously went on to become the chairman railway board. So New Jalpaiguri is BC Ganguli's last great contribution to NF Railway. And the story that I hear from my mother about BC Ganguli, because my mother, who worked as a nursing nurse at the NF Railway Hospital in Maligaon, she could supersede in her exam to become the matron. and then she was sent to New Jalpaiguri. There were several people who were interested to come to New Jalpaiguri when the New Jalpaiguri Railway Hospital was being built in those days, in early 60s. And my mother vividly remembers the role B.C. Ganguli played in actually recognizing her talent and putting her up as the matron, from where she retired as a chief matron and matron in charge in 2001. So my mother tells me that there is a lot of do go to the next slide, Apu, and I'll just keep on telling the stories. My mother tells me there are a lot of interesting stories around B.C. Ganguli. B.C. Ganguli never was very fond of his mother, because his mother has worked very hard to bring him up and bring him to that level. B.C. Ganguly's mother was very friendly with people around. She didn't bother herself to be the general manager's mother. So people would come and tell her, oh, you know, my son has done this, he's so good, but he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that. If you could get some job, etc., we are poor people. And B.C. Ganguly's mother would prod B.C. Ganguli. You are such a powerful person. Why don't you give this poor man a job? Why don't you give this poor man a job? And my mother says, and I have personally known some of those people whom B.C. Ganguli had given a job. So that was the power of the general manager in those days. The railway people can correct me, of course. So these are part of the folklore around B.C. Ganguli that still persists in NF Railway. And it seems that the design, the layout of the station, which B.C. Ganguli had thought about, it was beautifully designed, that there's a broad gauge part, there's a meter gauge and narrow gauge part. The international platform today from which Mithali Express departed, nobody would know. I would even wonder whether the current railwayman would know, was the original platform of the DHR at New Jalpaiguri. That was the point from which trains in 7 and 8 parts used to depart. There were at least some 3 trains used to leave with 2 each, coupled like this. They used to come up to Shukna. You see, 3 trains are coupled here. They come up to Shukna, and then each of them would go separately up the hills. What a wonderful railway it was. What a wonderful day. I have roamed around this station as a child because of my mother, the railwayman knew. Because as JL told me a few days ago, that if you might not know a railwayman working in some X area, might not know some railwayman working in some Y area, but if you are in the railway hospital, you tend to know everybody. Yeah. So that is how a lot of people knew my mother, and being my mother's child, and people were very amused of my own curiosity about the railway. And this is exactly my childhood's DHR. And those were the days where railways were so important, because there is still the relics of a you see, this is the current toy train at New Jalpaiguri, which I don't know, I like or dislike, I can't say, but it's not in a part of my childhood story. So there is still in Shukna a relic of a way bridge in which only 4 lorries of 4 tons or less were allowed up the hill. Even freight went up by the DHR at night. It was so fantastic. When I wonder how beautiful it would be to travel in DHR at night using a steam locomotive. Now, there is a story which I want to tell you about this diesel, that during the time when Terry Martin was writing his book, Halfway to Heaven. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us in this world. But at that time, I met Mr. Chakravarti, PK Chakravarti, who was AME, Class 2 officer, who was correct at that moment. He was a very senior person. He was the assistant mechanical engineer and in charge of the Tindaria locomotive works, the Tindaria workshop at DHR. I had a copy of J.L. Dabu's book. I'm sure most people, Appu, there is no doubt that you would not know this book and not have a copy of this book. So JLW himself sent me this book on India's diesel and electric locomotives, a beautiful one. It has a beautiful sketch of WDM4. That book had some information about diesels, experiments and trials on DHR. And I showed this just out of curiosity to Mr. Chakravarti, because he told me that, okay, it was very difficult to maintain steam locomotives, possibly some diesel would be better, etc. So he was the dieselizer actually. He took that book from me. The book never returned, of course, but diesel definitely came to DHR and B class got replaced. Of course, I understand it's very important to maintain those fabulous locomotives. I think they have started naming one. I think one of the locomotives in steam locomotives have been named Tindharia, because there were 3 locomotives made during that shed were named Tindharia, Karshiang, and Darjeeling. I hope those things are taken back. So this is a very this photograph, this early morning view, except this WDP4 here, if it is taken off and a WDM2 is kept and a proper yellow-brown WDM2, especially Howrah or Bardhaman, that would be exactly my childhood view of this place. This was New Jalpaiguri for me. And I would remember going down to the station and reading the name of the drivers or the guards and trying to see from which place they have come to walked into New Jalpaiguri. So the next. So here I give you a kind of description of the original New Jalpaiguri, the BC Ganguli's New Jalpaiguri. I am not talking about today's electrified New Jalpaiguri. When I went back in 2021, between this Delta and Omicron phase, after surviving Delta, is that I found my station has completely changed. 25 kVAC wires were there. Electric beasts were roaming, where gorgeous and glorious diesels hold the sway. But my luck was not that bad. I found that my yard of my beloved station was filled with yellow and red beasts, not beasts, beauties rather, in the name of GE locos. And they were the masters of freight at that time and still is. So let us look at how this station was designed. Let me tell you. So here on your left is the line coming from Howrah and the BG up-down line. And then the line got divided. There's a single line up and down, got divided into three lines. So there was a BG Island platform number 1 and 2. And then there's this platform number 3. And the station building stood in platform number 3. And just after the station building was just this platform 3 was actually an island platform 2, but the platform 3, the side was big higher because for the BG one, and the platform 4, which is now platform 1A, the international platform, is the platform for the DHR. And then there was platform 5, which was also for the DHR, because the DHR, what would do? The loco would pull the train in, then it will go and reverse here and come back and then again attach and go back towards and take the train towards Siliguri town. And here was the meter gauge platform 6 and platform 7 and 8. And there was meter gauge yards where these steam locomotives, sometimes YGs used to come. YPs never came, obviously there was no requirement. I have seen YGs there, and also this ubiquitous, there was the MAWDs. It's amazing actually. And then there was a BG line which was coming from a yard up near my home, my rail colony home, and it used to go into an Indian Oil depot, so which was beyond the MG yard. And just beside that line now, they have built the platform of the narrow gauge, right? The current narrow gauge. Here was you see from here, from the main line here, there was a line coming down into the goods yard. Of course, there were more lines than I've actually drawn. There's nothing to scale. And there was a shunting lead here. And there was a time when sometimes sorting used to be done in New Jalpaiguri, and I have seen hum shunting being done, but now that doesn't exist. Nowadays, you will find lines beyond this CYM yard, and there will be there's going to the ROH depot and all those things. So there is also a place where this company called Mittal who is making these slippers. So this was the whole thing. You see that the station is very neat. It is divided into two parts. But there is a major flaw also in the design. The design is that there was another BG sorting yard on this side, from where the line came up to the Food Corporation of India here and also to the Indian Oil. So which was near my house. So if a train has to be moved from this part and has to be taken for sorting on the other part, maybe a train which has come in with oil and has to be taken to the BG line to the Indian Oil, then it has to be taken all the way down, and it is to block main line and pushed back. So there was a lot of chaos, a lot of trains got delayed because of this main line blockage. It was very surprising that this was a design flaw in the station layout design, which was not taken care of. Nowadays, of course, the problem has been sorted because everything is BG and one part could be on the upside and one part could be on the downside. So there's obviously a mixture, but trains which are meant to go to the Indian Oil or to Food Corporation can be taken on the other side. So things have become much more easier now because everything is BG. Otherwise, that was a very difficult period. And I would say, and I would happily claim that from my station ran some of the slowest trains in India. I'm sure the meter gauge train was the slowest. It trundled at 10 kilometers per hour. And down to Siliguri Junction. But very, very interestingly, sometimes the general manager used to come in meter gauge, and his inspection car, I do not know whether railwaymen even in Maligaon would remember it, in meter gauge inspection car of the GM was named the Frontier Rover. And that used to be there in this platform number 6. I have seen that many, many times. This is a thing that I've drawn from memory. If there's a mistake, I would take the blame on mine. So here you can see that there was a coaching depot. The water tank still is there. The railway officers are there. The coaching depot is still there, and the pit line there. And Darjeeling Mail used to be pushed every evening just through this route into platform number 3. And this side is the Guwahati side, which also there was a steam loco shed right here, which I have not depicted. That would take too much of space. So anyway, let's progress. This is platform number 1A. This was the original platform number 4. This is the international platform where you see a train now standing here. It's amazing that many youngsters also wouldn't know that this was the platform from which every day in the morning, 3 parts train, 3 trains together, and then 3 trains together would go to Shukna and up the hills. And early morning, there was a Shukna New Jalpaiguri train. You wouldn't believe it now, but it seems magical because they brought all the employees from there to New Jalpaiguri and to Siliguri town and to Siliguri junction. Siliguri was a very vividly railway place. New Jalpaiguri is completely a railway town. There was nothing other than the railway. You go to the market. There were 2 markets, the railway bazaar, very near the station, and the gate bazaar, which is quite near the railway hospital, which is where the side where I live, which I'll show you the whole details here. So you go there and you know the insulated nature of the railway because people were just talking about the railway. You could see a locoman telling, "Oh, हमने तो signal पे खड़ा कर दिया है, क्या जानता controller." He was giving possibly some nasty galis to the controller for delaying him and this and that. हमको ये पकड़ लिया, वो पकड़ लिया. It's all about railways. There was nothing else other than railways. So New Jalpaiguri was all about railways and possibly still about railways. So here is an part I'm drawing, which is the part where I lived as a child. And I still go back to sometimes by my cycle still, sometimes by walking to my old place.
Joydeep,
So,
just usko the east, west, north, south करके बोला because we are not able to tell which
okay.
side. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, if you look at the diagram completely, like even the previous diagram, the right hand side to when you see the screen is the east, and the left hand side is the west. So the right hand side is the east, and the this is the north, and this is the south. So it is, if you look at the screen, your right hand side is the east, the left is the west, up is the north, and the one is the south, down is the south. So here is the Mahananda River, and this is the line from Howrah Shialda to Katihar. It is I am drawing those single line days. I am making a drawing my child. This is a child's memory from my single line days. If there are NFR officers here, they would possibly recognize it. Interestingly, this train, in New Jalpaiguri, both the entrances from the east, from Guwahati, or from the west, from the Howrah side, has a S as a curve, but this has an S curve. You see, it comes in and then it crosses just below the bridge, and then takes a curve like this, and then again curve like this, and comes on to the in line with the New Jalpaiguri station. So here was this area officer. New Jalpaiguri area was controlled by an area railway manager, possibly now by an ADRM. The area officer was the boss. If you wanted to have a ticket in EQ, you need to go and cajole him. That was the funda. So here, you see the up-down main line comes in. There was a shunting neck and with a crossover. And here was the level crossing. This level crossing was my favorite railway joint, because this is the place where I would stand for hours to watch trains come in, especially during the monsoon days, we with a umbrella in a hand, and you would not know when it would start drizzling, and then you'd see those WDM2s come in with freights or maybe with some mail. And WDM2s, I hate with this one double headlights, what is called twin beam, and that single round headlight, and they would just put the headlights on, and that will cut across the drizzle. What a sight. There was no photograph, no camera, nothing, but only your mind, your memory has captured that sight. So here was the level crossing, and from the level crossing, there was another, the road comes down right here to our railway colony called South Colony, which when my mother first came to New Jalpaiguri, stayed there. Here is a kind of a T junction, and opposite is the NJP Railway Hospital. You wouldn't believe, in the 70s, in the Siliguri area, this was the best hospital. And many major operations were carried out in this railway hospital and had fantastic doctors. Those who were in the Southeastern Railway would heard about a legendary doctor called Dr. Dastidar, who worked in this NF Railway Hospital. And later on, my mother's gallbladder operation was done by the Dr. Dastidar when he was I think he was absolutely the top of the medical department of the Southeastern Railway in Garden Ridge. So just they look at this. This was the NF Railway Hospital. This was a station road, which is not always very well maintained. This road is being maintained by the railway. There's a lot of potholes, of course, which comes up during the heavy rainy season. So here, just beside the railway hospital, there's a boundary, and then there's a railway colony, the sisters colony. So this was a quarters were named with 1A, 2A, the blocks. Every block had two quarters, 2A, 2B. So here lies my childhood home, and from where I could observe the railway. And you see here the broad gauge line comes in. There's the meter gauge, narrow gauge is on the other side. So here you're coming into the New Jalpaiguri station. Look at the cursor, and that is exactly what I showed in the one thing before. So here you see the BG sick line, and it comes into the coaching depot and pit line. And then there's a sorting yard, which takes the line, goes to the Food Corporation of India godowns, and also to the Indian Oil. So here, every morning, you wouldn't believe, whenever we used to get up from my home from here, I used to see a WG standing and watering to start his shunting duties. It was an amazing sight. The Hanuman Chalisa, one of the song about Hanumanji, was played in the RPF barracks. This is the RPF barracks. And it was very, very, I won't tell those stories, but so it's very interesting. So that atmosphere was very interesting, a very amazing atmosphere with the WG there. There was a water column right here, and the WG being watered, and the songs about Hanumanji being played, a kind of a mixture of railways and spirituality all in the air. And then suddenly everything is broken by the horn of the WDM2 hauling the Darjeeling mail straight into New Jalpaiguri station. So this is the romance around which New Jalpaiguri has been built, a complete railway town. Now this river that you see, this road that you see goes through, and again near area office breaks up into a junction, and these all are railway colonies up into the Gate Bazaar. My current home, my mother's house, is pretty near this place, this Gate Bazaar. The Gate Bazaar is something even known to the kid railway enthusiasts. Uh, the current railway enthusiasts are doing much more because the railway authorities are enabling them. I thank the railway authorities at New Jalpaiguri and NF Railway for being very kind to the railway enthusiasts and enabling them to do what they want. Please do accept my sincere thanks on this, because I am possibly at this most the senior most and possibly the oldest railway enthusiast of that area. Apu, the next one. Here is NFL Hospital, New Jalpaiguri. My mother used to come. I have seen her walking with that white uniform and a cap and get in there. And there are stories where colorblind drivers also used to be passed as fit for some additional benefits. So yeah, I'll not tell the stories, because that will not go into the real flow. But you see how things have changed. These roads are maintained by the railways. We really don't expect railways to maintain roads, but railways maintain the roads. And the RPF barrack is just right here on my side, and the station, unfortunately the level crossing doesn't exist. It has now been made into a underpass, and that is saddening. The level crossing was so beautiful. And let's go to the next slides. Apu, the next slide. Hello? So here comes the story of the legend, the Darjeeling Mail. It needs a history. Actually, mail trains in India needs a book by itself. The Darjeeling Mail predates everything possibly. It is there from 1879 when this train to Darjeeling actually started, and Siliguri Junction really started operating in a very strange way. And the line between Siliguri and Haldibari, now New Jalpaiguri and Haldibari, had been changed from broad gauge to meter gauge and meter gauge to broad gauge several times. And this train, Darjeeling Mail, in my childhood became a symbol of what that place New Jalpaiguri stood for. This train was not maintained primarily there, but their secondary maintenance was done there. Hardly when a train has a secondary maintenance at a place, the people of that particular zone doesn't give much account, much botheration or about secondary maintenance. But so much love was showered on this train, as if this train was being primarily maintained by New Jalpaiguri. I remember the husband of one of my mother's colleagues, whom I called lovingly Meshomoni or Mausaji. So he loved children very much, and he was a very nice person. So I remember once when he was the chief CDO basically. So I had forgotten my keys. I came from my hostel by Darjeeling Mail during the summer vacation, and in the AC two-tier compartments, there were small, these small holders here that you had where you could put your keys, specs, and all those things. And I forgot to pick up my keys of my hostel room. I forgot it there. I came down to his office and they opened that AC two-tire coach and I could find the keys. So that was the bonhomie what that small railway town had among its inhabitants. Here, Darjeeling Mail is standing in platform number 1A, the New Jalpaiguri stations, the international station, and also the next slide which shows the start of the Mitali Express train. So which is interesting that the internationalization of the New Jalpaiguri station starts from a platform which actually internationalized it because of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. What a fantastic what a fantastic coincidence. So again, going back to my uncle who was a chief CWM, chief coach and wagon manager. I don't know, I'm forgetting the terminologies now. But later on, he became AME coaching of New Jalpaiguri. He used to always say, in Bengali, he used to say, Darjeeling Mail to amrai thik kore dilam, means it is we who have actually kept the Darjeeling Mail in fine fettle. Even the area railway manager or area officer of New Jalpaiguri would often go to inspect the condition of the Darjeeling Mail, though the train was primarily maintained at Shialda. Nowadays, Darjeeling Mail has a return trip brake power certificate, so hardly they're there. But we were told that New Jalpaiguri rises to life with the arrival of the mail and starts sleeping with the departure of the mail. That was so true in those days. And I remember as a child how I became a railway enthusiast was to see the long chain of lights at 7:15 as the Darjeeling Mail pulled out of New Jalpaiguri with the WB steam locomotive. You only see we don't see much of the headlight, but you can see the glow in the cab. And one of my mother's colleagues' husband, and we had all the railway colony lives are filled with uncle and aunties. So one of my uncles, Mr. Haldar, was a regular fireman on the Darjeeling Mail. And one of the locomotives allotted to it, it is still preserved now, is locomotive number 7161 at Rewari. It was a regular power of the Darjeeling Mail. And the Darjeeling Mail, the New Jalpaiguri staff walked right up to Rampur Hat, right inside Eastern Railway, and after which it was taken by Rampur Hat staff to Shialda, right? And the steam locomotive changed. It was interesting, and he would often remember how it was difficult to fire when he was going on that curve near New Farakka Junction. And he always told me, remember, firing is dancing and dancing is firing. Those were possibly the golden age. Believe it or not, when Darjeeling Mail was maintaining just this 12 hours time, even with the steam locomotive. It just, the coming of those days were so fascinating that I can get almost moist-eyed to think about what a station was that. Somebody's put up a hand. Appu, just see what's. Yes, can I take any question? Hello?
Sorry, I put my hand because I was enjoying the talk so much. I have been posted to Calcutta and a lot of love with the Darjeeling Mail and other places. Thank you. I'll just continue, please.
Yeah, in one of my posts, I remember Deepak Sapra wrote, because he had wrote stories about maintaining locomotives for Darjeeling Mail, and he had said that that 43 up is the stuff of legends. 43 up is the stuff of legends too. And I again request railway employees, bring back our train home, because New Jalpaiguri is home for Darjeeling Mail. It is more home at New Jalpaiguri than at Shialda. It's an emotional appeal, but an appeal nonetheless. So let's go to the next slide. So these kind of neon signings, this is the outside part of New Jalpaiguri. This is where the ticketing offices are kept. So ticketing offices are completely outside. And now, as we go to the next slide, look at the changes that has come. you see that this is the Siliguri Junction town station. A color light signal, which was not there in the previous one, was here. Actually, no signal was required there. There was one semaphore signal on the MG side. We used to operate by paper line care on the NG side. Look, what is the condition? It is just so beautiful. It can be, as Mr. Sanjay Mukherjee was telling me, that he is making a lot of efforts, and I think I should also participate in that effort to actually preserve this place and make it into something interesting, a market or a museum or something like that. So, but here, go to the next slide. This part, which you saw that there was a shed, which was the MG part, doesn't exist. BG has gobbled it up. And now, of course, you would see electric wires. So we go into the next one. So this is the current ugly facade of Siliguri Junction. Siliguri Junction building had a very minimalistic design. And B.C. Ganguly's designs were actually minimalistic. That you do not make too halla too much of a thing, but you make them extremely functional. So what he did, the Siliguri Junction was once a very great station. It boasts of the first, possibly the first meter gauge diesel shed in India, the YDM4 shed, and it also boasts of receiving and operating very important trains through them, like the 3 or 4 down Barauni Dibrugarh town Assam Mail, the meter gauge one, and the 1 down 2 up Lucknow Junction, Lucknow Charbagh, Lucknow Choti line, Lucknow Junction, Guwahati 80 Mail. And locomotives were specifically maintained for these trains. Meter gauge has a very different culture, because I used to sometimes come to this station because I had a cycle and that I could use to come to this station. I would tell one of why I can see Mr. Babai, they are very famous and young railway enthusiast from that zone, who has also taken part in painting a locomotive in tricolor on the 75th anniversary and named it Hirak. So he seems also uses a cycle, just like me, what I did so many years back. This station, I don't know why they wanted to give it an airport look. It had a minimalistic thing, beautifully done, but very functional. And the culture of the meter gauge, which if you come from, at these doors, if you come from New Jalpaiguri to Siliguri Junction, the 70s, you could understand the meter gauge was so fantastically clean. That's the word I'm using, clean. Meter gauge had a culture which even the BG can never match up in India, because JL would be the best person to speak after this if I want meter gauge, if he can have some time. Because when we changed at New Bongaigaon from the BG Kamrup to the MG Kamrup, the difference was absolutely clear. So this station was fantastically beautiful. And I remember in my childhood days waiting to go to meet our father with my mother, me and my brother. And the YDM4 used to trundle in with the trail of coaches, either 80 Mail or Assam Mail, and with the words, "This engine costs 57 lakhs." That was written on the cab side. I do not know why it was written, but it was absolutely interesting that you would get an amount. It was a kind of a reminder that how much this poor country spends on making locomotives which are effective. YDM4, the true hero of Indian Railways, it's an unsung hero, but one cannot imagine how it actually improved the MG network. So let's go back to the next one, as the time is almost done. So here is now Siliguri Junction in his BG avatar with all this catenary posts and broad gauge trains. This was not the Siliguri Junction of my childhood. Siliguri Junction has meter gauge trains. I always have this saying that broad gauge is too big, narrow gauge is too small, and the meter gauge is just beautiful. Meter gauge actually, synchronizes with the human body and the human self. So, next slide up. So here, very lately, again, I want to thank the railway authorities. for actually allowing youngsters to celebrate the 10th the 10th birthday of the Shatabdi Express between Howrah and New Jalpaiguri, which has been maintained by NJP. I do not say that they have great catering services or anything. They can be still improved, because I knew several years ago who were the people doing the catering services, because I had access to the area manager at that time. My own cousin brother, Mr. Pranab Datta, who retired as the PRO of this metro railway, worked as the chief yard master of New Jalpaiguri for a long, long time, and then went over to other parts of NFR. So here you see the DRM of Kathiawar division, and along with him, this is Mr. Babaide and other railway enthusiasts, Mr. Arush. So these youngsters have decorated the train, made these kind of banners. And I was unfortunately at that time in New Jalpaiguri, but in my house, though I had no problem because I had supposedly been COVID positive again. So it was a very, very sad situation for me that some celebration is going on in my hometown and I am not being able to take part. So these people really enjoyed, had a very good time. So let's go to the next slide. So this is the last slide, which shows the change which has come to New Jalpaiguri. So here is the electric locomotive, the first electric locomotive WAG98C, which has been put into electric locomotive, into a diesel locomotive shed at NJP. See, the interesting part is that we will never have, unfortunately, diesel locomotive sheds would hardly have passenger locomotives now because of this accident which happened near New Jalpaiguri of this Bikaner-Guwahati Express, where the traction motors came off WAP4. They blame it off because of the locomotive possibly belonged to Gonda. They blame it on those diesel shed people. So they can't maintain passenger locomotives. So all the passenger locomotives are taken away from diesel sheds. Mr. V. Anand wants to say something. Please, sir. Yes, sir.
Anand sir, please speak. You are muted.
I fully agree with Mr. With the author that meter gauge was better than broad gauge in many respects. Though we used to look down upon the meter gauge northeastern, those people used to say, "Hamara gauge chota hoga, par hamara dil bahut bada hai." And way back in British times, the northern part, that is they used to give a good competition to the BG portion. That's because of the Ganga River separating the two. And the MG trains in southern were certainly better maintained, more punctual and cute. Mr. Madhav Rao India had a vision that we should improve the meter gauge after we started this Assam Express super fast. And we even started building a higher powered meter gauge loco in DLW. But that was not to be. Or to his project Unigauge, a great, the charm of the meter gauge railways of India is lost forever. Thank you.
I just want to ask the railwaymen here if they would know it. Mr. Anand sir, you could also possibly give us some insight. As far as I could know from several sources, BC Ganguli had built the broad gauge line up to New Jalpaiguri, up to New Bongaigaon. He said that his dream NF railway should actually be a double line meter gauge railway system with color light signaling and centralized traffic control, and capable of running trains at 110 kilometers per hour.
Hello.
Hello. So I have some information from some sources on NFR that BC Ganguli dreamt of a meter gauge double line from Barauni right up to Dibrugarh town, which will be having centralized traffic control CTC system, which he in fact installed in NFR between Changshari and Bongaigaon. So now during the MG days. So and then run trains at
That was between.
Hello.
Hello.
Actually, with railways having gone in for content in the big way, we could have handled the freight traffic also.
Yes. So I don't know. The meter gauge is an amazing thing which is lost. Trains like Vaigai on the BG is taking more time, and a lot of things are lost because the meter gauge is gone. The Assam mail is lost. The AT mail is lost. A lot of things. The glory is lost because the meter gauge is gone. The one thing I like about the culture of the meter gauge, the neatness, the punctuality even in those days was just superb. So with this, I would end and I would thank several people, Mr. Babaide and Mr. Anubhav.
Madras, Egmore and Madras Central are the most rude, whereas on Egmore side, the porters are still very polite and very helpful. Makes a lot of difference. And
I have experienced MG from Egmore, and I have even had the chance of foot plating YAM1, and so it was just fantastic.
And when I was general manager Southern Railway, we converted the meter gauge suburban trains to broad gauge. And we found that the end-to-end running meter gauge was faster than broad gauge. Chennai Beach to Tambram.
Despite of vacuum brakes.
Despite vacuum brakes.
Yes. Right.
So I would like to thank these two railway teams for helping me out. They have been huge support. Actually, I first started talking to these youngsters through their YouTube videos. Of course, there was a little suspicion as whether I am really a proper man or not. Then gradually, when we became friendly, we understood. And there's a huge amount of energy. And the railway authorities at New Jalpaiguri or DHR, NFR should take in the energy. And for example, they are celebrating the 51st birthday of Kamrup Express. And to dig into history, Mr. Sanjay Mukherjee, our own, had taken a lot of pains and got a fantastic information. And there was an article on that even in our railway magazine. So in our magazine. So I would end the show by dedicating this to the young railway enthusiasts of my area. And I thank the railway authorities for enabling them. And I am future that their interactions with the railway authorities would be very nice in the future. And I will tell them not to get too much caught up with what RPF is doing to you. There will be some good railway people, your friends would come to your rescue. Don't worry about that. Keep rail fanning and make India be great again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joydeep. Very fascinating talk. Shows your passion for New Jalpaiguri and that area. If there are any questions or comments.
Okay. Can I speak, Apurva? Yeah. Now regarding JL Dabu's book, actually he came with me to Downshed to see the last of the steam locos, and I had promised him a footplate ride in both directions, but on the return I couldn't get a footplate ride, so we traveled ticketless in the general compartment, standing up from down to Pune. And then I didn't have a car at that time, so I took him on a scooter everywhere within Pune. So he said, I've never ridden a two-wheeler in my youth. I've done it, because even that time he was quite old. So we had a great time, and I think I could take him to the loco shed in Pune, and he was enthusiastic enough to actually climb on top of the locomotive. There was a ladder on this thing on the top of the locomotive. That's my memory of Mr. Jal Dabu. And now one question I have.
JL Dabu's book has JLW has some way indirect consequences on the dieselization of DHR.
Yes, that's true. And that's true. I mean, this is, yeah. One question I have is in this hospital gate photograph, it looked like there is a railway line which is crossing the gate, but I think that's a gutter,
No,
right?
no. There's no, not railway line. The railway line is much further, much towards me.
Okay. Another question I had is about the three-part train. Why did you leave the train in three parts? Why couldn't you take it as one this thing and then combine it?
It might be too heavy for maybe to climb up the gradient. So they were going in separate.
Where is the gradient? Gradient is after Sukna, na?
No, up to Sukna they will go. It's a plane, na. Then
correct. So why do you need to make three trains go to Sukna then combine as well, or do they run combined to Sukna and then they?
No, they go combined up to Sukna. And
Okay.
Start leaving separately.
So the photograph that you have at Sukna is the train has just arrived and then it will.
Sukna, and then they will just go out. This is my childhood. These are old photographs on this Anubhav Orko they has sent me. But this is actually these are the things I have seen in my childhood. I had no camera at that time.
Yes.
My
one more. Okay. One more question is about the
what for us like a point. Now you have a camera, you are doing that fantastic photography, that surreal kind of photography. But the question is that in those days, from me, I'm not a very good photographer. Everything lies in my mind, so I have to speak them out, and that is what I am doing. A railway storyteller.
Yes, that is great. What is the load factor of a train like Mithali Express?
Mithali Express, Mr. Babai there is on.
Babai, can you speak?
Babai, can you speak?
Another question, supplement to this is that there is going to be a Nepal to Chittagong railway link. Will it go through the same road? Will it be different? Babai, can you come on? You can unmute yourself.
Tell us about the Mithali Express rake composition.
Yeah, rake composition, the load factor, how does it run? And will the Nepal to Chittagong railway link also use the same track?
Sir, if they start the Thakurganj line, which will be bifurcated from Galgalia to Araria, then they can start the Nepal and Chittagong.
But will it go through the same track? Or
yes,
is it a different track?
No. They can start the train through the track.
And how popular is a train like Mithali Express?
Sir, not very much now, but I heard that last week they got around 300 passengers booking.
Okay, so is that a good load factor? I mean, for a 24 coach or 18 coach, whatever.
No, sir. The composition is first AC and 4 chair car.
Yeah, Anubhav bol.
Yeah, the total capacity of Mithali Express is 408.
Yeah.
And it is for the first few months it was running a lot less empty, but recently the capacity is the passenger count is going upwards, and it is expected that in the future days it will run full as Maitri and Bandhan.
So Maitri and Bandhan are running full on all days.
Yeah, it's mostly full, and it is hugely popular because the thing is that what I have spoken to the rail fans, I guess Babai would agree also that there is the train runs non-stop from Dhaka to NJP. So the people who I mean, it does not have any commercial stop. It is
yes, sir.
Occasionally looped for overtakes and crossing. It does get doesn't get much priority over in the BR section. But most people who want to.
Where is the loco stuff coming from Bangladesh? Where is the loco? Which loco station?
Ishardi ka hi rahega. I think the Ishardi loco shed will be hoping that.
The Bangladesh, the Ishwardi locos from BR comes to Haldibari. The stops of the BR get changed to the IF stop at Haldibari itself. If anyone wants to spot BR locos in Indian territory on a regular basis, you can come to Haldibari on the Mithali.
Because I can see what I'm going to do. I'm not going to take Maitri Express or Vidar Express. I'll come to the NJP and then take this other train. You know, from Pune, if I have to go, I'll take the long route.
And
right?
I'll share another fact. I guess Babai, I also shared that in the comments that the combined running of DHR till Sukna is repeated again since last few weeks. So an AC passenger train has been started, and those two are running combined till and to Shukna, and I guess as a railway enthusiast, being here and being active 5 or 6 years before, much more than, I will propose to RES that if through our contacts we could approach the DHR to kindly popularize the railway galleries at the Karshiang station as well as Sukna station, because those galleries have great images to showcase, but people do not know about this.
Okay.
But remember one thing, those galleries have images largely taken from Terry Martin's book. One can get into a lot of trouble. One has to be very careful to actually represent.
Which one you're talking about? The Railway Museum at Sukna?
No, that Shukna and the one at Ghum, they are all the pictures are
It's a copy, Mara. It's just a copy.
That's not a very good idea.
Yeah.
That the railway should be very careful. They can make use of this photo, young people, and take their photographs and put it there. It's much more easier.
Yeah. Yeah. One question that Joydeep, you talked about the first MG loco shed in India. And I think that should be Gandhidham. It should, because the
YDM4.
YDM4 shed, okay. First YDM4s came to Siliguri.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it was not YDM4. The YDM3s came to Siliguri.
Yes, YDM3.
Okay. JL is the expert.
Yeah. Okay.
Then YDM4s came, of course.
Yeah, YDM3s came. Then later on, the YDM3s and 5s were transferred to our road.
Yeah, exactly. YDM, because Assam Mail started operating with YDM3 and YDM5. They were dieselized. Assam Mail was one of the first trains to be dieselized on NFR. I think the first one.
So that time Sabarmati shed didn't exist, is it?
No, Sabarmati came up only in 1980.
Okay, right.
In fact, I was the SME construction for building that shed.
Right, okay.
MG expert.
But the first meter gauge shed in India, the diesel shed is Gandhidham.
Gandhidham, that was for YDM1.
YDM1s, correct. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Great. Yeah.
So if there are any more questions?
And the last diesel locomotive, I forgot its number, possibly it has been sent to Malaysia. The last YDM4 made by this DLW was also part of Siliguri shed.
Okay.
Yeah, must be in Kunur right now. I don't know.
It has left. It has gone from there.
Okay.
Sometimes it may be there.
There's another hand raising.
Khalid Saab, Mushik Khalid, you can unmute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I raised a question just to know that right now they are running only one train in DHR. Is there a provision to increase the number between DHR and from New Jalpaiguri to Darjeeling?
Actually, there is a provision because the railway's signaling apparatus, the way the railway operates, has never changed. There is a Karshiang to Darjeeling school train, I think, which still operates. So they can actually operate more trains. So if they could operate it in the 1970s in that manner, they have not. There was no signaling, line side signaling, etc. It is all paper line clear business and sending telegraphic messages to the next station. So those things can absolutely be done today. Because now the problem is that with the rolling stock. So if like NMR, like what NMR did, if you can build such steam locomotives again, you can have trains in 3 parts. The problem, of course, is the psyche of the people. People now think it's a road that I can just drive up the hills fast. Why I give up? I enjoy driving my Hyundai Creta or something, rather than actually taking the train. So they have to, DHR would do well to run enthusiast specials and not charging arbitrary money, but where even youngsters can get, like these young people can actually go through. There are nowadays Vistadome tourist trains from New Jalpaiguri, but the fare should also be tuned so that youngsters can also afford it. Because tourist trains fares cannot be just a revenue making fare. It has to have a balance. So then you can run that. So you have to have more rolling stock back in Darjeeling Himalayan Railways, and just a few diesels cannot do that. You have to have several steam locos which are well maintained or absolutely newly made, like the ones you see in Golden Rock in NMR. So Golden Rock is made for NMR. That kind of change has to come for DHR.
There was one new loco or B class loco which these people had made. I wonder what happened to that. There was a oil fired.
Nobody did.
Nahi hua. No, they were trying. I had seen a photograph also.
No,
Same
they're
thing,
trying.
the industrial boiler and oil fired.
See, if you look into the archives properly, and that is the problem. We don't maintain the archives. I think if we dig into the archives of Tindoria workshop, we will be able to find the designs of those 3 B-class locomotives which were made during the British days and named Tindoria, Karshiang, and Darjeeling. That can be found. And of course, people can say why it's very costly, this and that, but doesn't matter. But if you have that thing that go ahead and do it, one can actually do it. Railway enthusiasts act like a pressure group. They can keep on telling the railway people that please do it, please do it. Some people finally accept that okay, this is interesting and we'll do it, and some people do not.
Right.
Well, Joydeep, thank you very much. It reminded me a lot of my meter gauge days, and I agree
The
entirely that
loco
meter
has
gauge
been converted to oil fired again with road number B class 1. Somebody has written. So this is the one which they made it. Anubhav?
Yeah, that loco is B class 01. You can notice it from its smooth sides. Usually, B class loco sides have been bolted and riveted as not smooth, but this one has a smooth side. It is B class 1 and usually can be seen at a Siliguri shed. It was converted again to oil fired back in, I guess, 10 years back.
Yeah, now it is again steam locomotive. It does shunting duty at the shed with the coaches of DHR.
Oh,
yeah, I agree on that.
Harish sir, Harish Hariri, if somebody want to speak. Harish,
yes, sir. I would like to give the suggestions and I would also ask a question.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Sir, I want to first ask with the relation to the meter gauge, as Sir Joydeep Dutta said, that the beauty of meter gauge compared to broad gauge. Sir, I would like you to elaborate on that, statement.
Okay. Have you stood before a broad gauge locomotive or a steam locomotive like WP or even a giant like WDG6G?
Yes, sir.
I think if we had done it, if you're in love with the railway, nothing matters. Even if I stand before a WDG6G, I'll still find it intimidating.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely it's a fearful thing. It's a monster. It can crush you. But when you stand on a meter gauge platform, the coach height is almost nearly it coming within your range, and you feel at very home. Those are the kinds of dimensions in which we feel very comfortable.
Yes.
Meter gauge cannot be, for example, look at the Swiss meter gauge system on the hills, like on the Raticheban, where they have this St. Moritz to Kur Glacier Express, which is taken as one of the top trains of the world. Can't India make things like that? Even electrification was done. Even the Southern Railway electrification with YAM1, CLW couldn't produce another YAM1.
Yes.
So even electrification can be done on the meter gauge. So this going, and now because we didn't use the Talgo technology, we could have saved a lot of money on gauge conversion. I think getting a new train and building it is much an easier thing to do, and improving a rolling stock and speeds are much more easier thing to do, and strengthening on our tracks than wholesale taking off the tracks and building new stations. That's much more costlier. We haven't improved the meter gauge. In certain cases, for example, when I went to meet the people at the Vaigai maintenance center at platform number 5 of Madurai station, they told me the difference between blocked wheeled and tired wheels. That the Vaigai Express had blocked wheels, so Vaigai Express could run at 100 kmph. So look at the facilities you have at Vaigai Express and the meter gauge. Those tinted glasses even in the second class coaches. That fast running with YDM4. That sight when it is to rush to Tambaram station in Chennai. Can your any broad gauge, can the current broad gauge Bhoigai Express give you that feeling? No, that it is special. Meter gauge, the great trains always gave you the feeling that it was special. Assam Mail was Assam Mail. When you don't play tricks with Assam Mail, it has to be on time. 80 Mail was 80 Mail. It has to maintain time. It has to maintain its coach livery. So meter gauge had a culture of pride. That culture of pride is not existing on the BG. BG is just too big. Even if you talk to me about comforts of ICF versus LHB, I would still go for an ICF coach because I don't have the jerk of the LHB on the ICF coach. ICF coach, the coaches move like a arrow on a proper track. So that is the difference. We have not improved the MG. We could have actually improved the MG and kept the MG system going instead of the heavy unigauge policy. That was not required. Even I would say even up to Guwahati, up to BC Ganguli was a great railway engineer. He thought that up to New Bongaigaon, BG is okay. After that, it should be MG. And MG had much more advanced signaling system between from Chhapra, I don't know, from Chhapra to Gorakhpur possibly, they had put the CTC and also between Changsari and Bongaigaon Junction, the Bongaigaon they had put CTC, centralized traffic control, which is sometimes called the absolute permissive block. And so it was fantastic. In those single line system, they could manage the whole train sitting at Maligaon headquarters. They could manage this whole running. So, and the trains weren't late so much. And nowadays on the BG, the trains are late. And there was so much pride. Assam Mail maintained a Dibrugarh town. Any railway is to maintain 80 Mail. 80 Mail, that blue train, light blue color with bars of white stripes up and down the window bar. Oh, what a train it was. What a sight too it was. Chocolate colored coaches of Assam Mail with maroon and a blue bar below the window panel. What a sight it was. So when such a train is to come in, you know that you are making a journey. Meter gauge made you something special. Getting on Pink City Express is more special than getting on Shatabdi Express. Shatabdis and Rajdhanis have now become classes of trains, like Vande Bharat is soon going to become. What is special about them? It is speciality that attaches romance to the railway. Like it was Kim, there's a famous statement in Kim that romance brought up the 915. So somebody, Oppo, wants to have a discussion. Oppo, Renault, something, I don't know.
Yeah. David Churchill, would you like to speak? Paul Whittle, sir, would you like to speak?
Yes, sir. Would you be glad?
Just briefly, yes. Yes, I'm sorry I have no camera, so you can't see me. That is maybe a blessing. But I was just saying it's very good to hear that trains are regularly being run to Sukna on the DHR, coupled together. That is starting again regularly, something I remember from the late 1970s. All the shuffling around of trains at Sukna, all the people getting out the trains and watching what was going on at Sukna as the train was being separated into the sections to go up the DHR. It's wonderful to hear that is at least 3 days a week happening again now. That's bringing something of history back again. And I'd like to thank Joydeep for a wonderful morning of memories from childhood, which bring things to life so much more than facts and figures and maps.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Whistle, will you like to speak?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's still quite early back here in the UK. I had to set my alarm clock for about 06:15 to be with you all this morning. But a couple of things just to bring you up to date with the DHR. The top end of the line is very, very busy. They're running 12 daily joy trains between Darjeeling and Goom. And with the festival season upon us, if the demand is there, they may actually increase that to a total of 16 Joy trains, probably about 2/3 of them diesel, the other third steam, and that I think will be a world record in terms of capacity at the top end of the line. The DRM Katihar, Colonel Chowdhury, who we've got a very good relationship with, is in no doubt that much better use can be made of the capacity of the line on the southern end of it, particularly NJP up to Kurseong and so on. He's made absolutely clear to us he would like more diesels. We haven't heard the fine detail of where they would come from. There is talk of building them or perhaps assembling them at Tindaria. One easy option, I guess, might be just to revive the production line for the NDM6s, the existing fleet. That way you get commonality of operating, spare parts and everything else there. We should know a lot more fairly soon because, as I mentioned, our president, Adrian Suter, a very, very senior professional railwayman here, he's actually in India now, and he's visiting the DHR. He'll be talking to the DRM, and our director of engineering, David Mead, will be coming out on the 17th of this month, and he'll be on the DHR for about 9 or 10 days. He's bringing with him a track expert, and you might say, well, we haven't talked about track at all this morning, but one of the operating constraints on the DHR is that when the track was relayed with concrete sleepers, the track wasn't widened just that little bit extra on some of the very sharp curves, and that really does have a devastating effect on the tractive power of the locomotives. And it doesn't do anything for wheel wear and wear on the rails and everything else there. So we'll be looking to help the DRM and the DHR in two ways. Firstly, on the performance and reliability of the steam locomotives, and also to see where some low cost and almost immediate improvement can be made to those pinch points on the railway, which is constraining some of the trains to run. For example, a steam locomotive is running with just 2 carriages between Darjeeling and Goom. If we can get that up to 3 carriages per train, then the economics of that service are transformed, the income goes up, everyone is happy. There we are. Thanks for allowing me to join you again this morning.
Thank you for the wonderful information. And I have a request to Mr. Paul Whittle that could DHR, because that's a better pressure group than even Indian Rail Enthusiasts, can there be a talk of a diner train, say between Kurseong and Darjeeling, or kind of thing where you can actually eat and take a evening view of the hills, and with a steam locomotive running through the hills at night? That is a kind of thing which I have in my mind that would be just fantastic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
B class at night, because I've seen as a childhood B class locomotives at night in the maintenance yard at New Jalpaiguri. There was a maintenance yard at New Jalpaiguri previously, which later on was shifted to Siliguri Junction. But originally it was in Siliguri town actually. I do not know, because I think a lot more has to be done at the Siliguri area to make DHR becoming more popular. And as you said, that there's more new trains, as David said, the 2 trains have started again in the same operating fashion of jointly coming. I think more trains can be started. And if Nilgiri Mountain Railways can have freshly minted steam locomotive at Golden Rock, I think Golden Rock can also make locomotives for DHR if Tindoria doesn't want to make.
I'm sure you're right, Joydeep, but actually, you see, the DHR has got what, 12 or 13 B class, and the answer is to make them work better. They may be old, but with the right love and attention, the much better use could be made of the existing steam fleet. I honestly don't think we need to build any new ones. The old ones are there, and they can be dramatically improved. Actually, we've been to Tindara a couple of times in the past. The problem sometimes is that sometimes the solutions we've come up with haven't lasted. The people there have moved on, they've retired, some of the skills have been lost and so on. So part of our support effort is to make sure that the right training regime is left in place for the future. But the locos are there, certainly. We just need to use them better.
Okay, thank you. So I would also like to end my talk by just giving a very interesting information. There is a movie, a Hindi movie, in which a very famous star, Mr. Dilip Kumar, enacted, called Sagina Mahato, which was on one of the life of the coolies of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railways, a worker, centered around Tindharia. That was shown in the movie and has lovely songs. But it was actually a Bengali short story written in the 60s, and it was actually it was a story about the 40s, early 40s, but it was actually a story surrounded around Siliguri area. So that Sagina Mahato, that name is linked to the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway in the Siliguri area. So in fact, I was wondering if I could make an English translation of that story, and if our chief editor, Mr. J.L. Singh, would like to publish such a translation. And I do not know how to take permission and all those things. Maybe that would be interesting, because that says a lot about DHR also. The story also speaks about DHR and how the people, how the workers of DHR lived in and around Siliguri. In the Siliguri, near this diesel shed, there's something called the Kuli Patti. If I remember well, Baba, you can tell. So this that comes from those DHR days, where the laborers of DHRs used to stay. So it's a wonderful thing, actually. There's a lot of history still around. DHR, without DHR, there is no Siliguri. There is the railways of Siliguri wouldn't make much sense. So there's a lot of things in and around.
Thanks a lot, Joydeep. Your talk has been one of the longer ones that we have had. Shows your passion and I would say even pride for that area and the railways. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we can end now, and your suggestion about that, if you can give me the translation, we'll certainly try and put it into our magazine.
Okay, sure.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Particularly from our friends in the UK.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.